Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to talk to you today. For those I haven't connected with before, my name's Brendon Granger. Just quickly, I've spent 35 years in hospitality, 25 of those in tech, and the last 10 running my company, Technology for Hotels, which educates and helps hoteliers improve their business through the use of technology. Today, I have the pleasure of talking with you about the future of technology. I've got about 20 minutes. I've been told I need to keep it fairly tight because everybody knows that I could talk about this subject all day. So Gartner are predicting by 2030, not too far away, that 85% of all interactions will not involve human contact. Now that's pretty scary for us in the hotel industry. And I think the key point is that technology will change. We can't ignore that. But our role is to ensure that it doesn't take away from our core focus, which is creating memorable guest experiences. So this goes back to the high tech, high touch argument that's been around for a long time. Do we need to choose between high tech and high touch? And I think what I'm going to show you today, the answer is we don't. We can actually create a balance. Just something I also read recently too. John Naisbitt had a book called Megatrends that came out in 1982. And he said, as we introduce more technology, believe it or not, the desire for human contact actually increases. And I think that's a positive thing for our industry. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to be talking about where we've come from, just to very quickly set the scene, just, to let you know that obviously we have introduced technology into the hospitality industry over the last 35, 40 years. We'll talk about artificial intelligence. We'll talk about the Internet of Things, biometrics and robotics. Unfortunately, within the 20 minutes, we will not have time to talk about augmented reality and virtual reality, but both of those areas are also going to have an impact on our industry. So where have we come from? Believe it or not, there's been a lot of change. So back in the 40s, we had, registers that were literally a ledger, so to speak. Then we moved to the Whitney system in the 50s. And then in around the 80s, I think it was, we went to computerized computer systems. From a front desk point of view, what we're looking at here is a front desk from the 1960s. I think it's a Hilton. And in 2015, there was this famous hotel in Japan, the Hina Hotel, who thought they would, go full Monty basically, and they put robots behind the front desk. That lasted a couple of years. Unfortunately, they really didn't work out. So what it's showing us is that, to me, it proves that robots will not replace humans. And I always tell students that. And then what we're looking at here is a lobby from the Ridges Melbourne, which done a major refurbishment. It's opened. In the lobby, there is no front desk. It's all done via self-check-in with ambassadors to help those. So there is still human interaction there. So I want to talk about artificial intelligence, which everyone is talking about. And somebody gave me a good analogy the other day. They said, artificial intelligence is a little bit like teenage sex. Everybody's talking about it, but very few people are doing it. So what is artificial intelligence? Well, it's the simulation of human intelligence by machines, right? Allowing them to learn, to reason, and to problem solve. It's going to have a dramatic impact on everything. I think it's potentially going to be as big as the introduction of the internet itself. But in the hotel industry, I think there's two key areas that to me come to mind. And the first one is personalisation. We've been talking about personalisation for a very long time now, and we've got a lot of data on our guests. But analysing that data and making it available at our fingertips has always been an issue. I think with artificial intelligence, we'll be able to get to that point. So, what we'll see in the future, and it's not too far away, is the version of the hotel website that's presented to me will be different to the version that's presented to you, and it will be based on our preferences that we have. The other thing that I see is that artificial intelligence and technology generally, and you'll see that through the presentation, can actually help our team by looking after those mundane, repetitive tasks, freeing up them for the high touch interaction with our guests. Now, I wanted to show you really quickly here. I'm just going to escape that screen. I've got ChatGPT running here. Pardon for looking, but I'm looking at my screen over here. If you've used chat, you know how brilliant it is. We created a custom GPT for our business. Why did we do that? Well, one of the things we do is we sell telephones, and I think we do a pretty good job. We've got lots of information, of course. We've got brochures, we've got the spec sheets, we've got the manuals on the phones, a little bit like the standard operating procedures in a hotel. There's a lot of documentation somewhere, but is it readily available, particularly if staff are on the move? So we created this quick GPT. It's a custom GPT that we only have access to, and we created it, believe it or not, in probably about an hour. We fed into chat the brochures for all of the phones, and we also did a brain dump. We literally opened a Word document and spoke into it those common things that we deal with regards to telephones. And let me just give you a really quick example, but I can say something like, does the S2116 support Wi-Fi? And it's obviously looking at all the knowledge we've put in, and it's come back and it says it does not support Wi-Fi. However, it's a SIP phone with features. Great, that's fantastic. What models do support? And you can see I'm not very accurate when I'm typing. It doesn't really matter. Okay. So it's come back with two models, the 2315, the 2415, which I know is actually correct. And there actually are two additional models which it's come back with as well. So I just wanted to show you that. I could see that being extremely applicable in hotels where you've got standing operating procedures. If you've got somebody who's new, they might be out and about using chat on their mobile phone. A worst case scenario, one of the porterage team crashes a guest car. There's a whole protocol that needs to be put into place. If you're a new duty manager and you don't know that, on your phone, you could go to that chat. You could say, Porter's just crashed a car. What do I need to do? Bang, 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 bang. Give you the steps. I think it's going to be revolutionary in that sense, putting the information in the fingertips of our team. So I'm going to go back to the presentation. So that was a quick demonstration on AI and ChatGPT. The next thing I want to talk about is the Internet of Things. So what is the Internet of Things? Put simply, it's devices that are connected to the internet, part of a digital network. These devices are able to connect and share data about the environment and how they're being used. And more importantly, they can be monitored and controlled. And believe it or not, the hospitality industry as an industry as a whole has one of the most, the number of installed IoT devices, and they are in the form of our energy management monitoring solutions that we actually have. But we're going to see a lot more of these devices built in, IoT built into devices full stop. So what could we see? As an example, the lock could communicate to the lift so that when the door of the guest room is opened or closed, the lift is actually called and it's waiting there for the guest. I'm not sure if it's a practical use. We're also going to see lifts that will be reporting faults based on number. The lift will be able to say, I've been up and down X many times. I've done X many open and door closes. At this point in time, I need a service. Otherwise, we're looking at a potential breakdown, which, heaven forbid, would happen on a weekend or anything like that. Another really simple example, I think, is TV remotes. They've got batteries in them, of course. At the moment, at least they do. Maybe we can change that in the future. But we normally have a routine where we replace the batteries, every 12 months, whether they need to be or not. So there's an expense there. We're not getting the full life out of the batteries, and it's not great for the environment, let's face it. What if the remote control could actually put an entry in to your engineering ticketing system when it got to 5%? So a shift engineer would come on, they'd get a list. Oh, great, I've got to replace batteries in TV remotes for these 3 rooms today. Biometrics is also an area I think we're going to see a lot of, and it's happening overseas already. What is biometrics? It's referring to using unique physical characteristics like a fingerprint or a facial recognition for identification. So we're using it obviously now in Australia as you exit the country. There's facial recognition compares to your passport. I think in hotels we could see that in the future as well. They could replace room keys. That would mean that the whole check-in process would be completely streamlined, particularly for a regular guest. Just facial recognition. We've got all your details. Here's your room number. Facial recognition to get up to your floor in the lift, and also to enter your room. And if you've seen it, Alibaba already have a hotel doing this in China called the Flizhou Hotel. So it's all done based on facial recognition. I talked about personalisation earlier, and I think one of the things that biometrics will also be able to help us with is recognition. We find it difficult now when we get return guests to recognise them as return guests, and we often ask that, heaven forbid, that question, is this your first stay? Which no guest really likes to hear if it's not their first stay. So what we will see in future is via facial recognition, as a guest approaches the front desk, or maybe as they enter the building, the systems will be able to say, oh, this is Mr. Smith. Does he have a reservation? Yes, he does. Bang, pops up the details for our team on reception so that they can greet Mr. Smith. It could be the same when they go to breakfast. The facial recognition can come up, let you know the room number, let you know that breakfast is included on their package. So I think that's going to be a major thing. Robots, something dear to my heart. And if you followed me on LinkedIn, you've seen that I've been doing work in this area for a couple of years now. I think robots have got a lot of potential to help us, mainly because labour costs are the biggest expense that we have in our industry, and it is increasingly difficult to get staff. Robots are happy to do shift work. They don't take sick days, holidays, and overtime. They're really good at those boring, repetitive tasks. They do it with a high degree of accuracy, which is great. And they're consistent, very consistent. So if they're vacuuming a corridor, then they will, religiously go up and down, and that corridor will be immaculate, which can prolong the life of the carpet as well, which we don't really think about. But what robots can do is, of course, is save labor. And like other technologies we talked about, we're not saying they will replace humans, but they will free your human team up to focus on more high-value tasks. Here's a couple of robots I want to look at here. So the first one on the left is a robot. It's a butler robot. This is actually a photo of a robot at the M Social Hotel in Auckland. His name is Harry. He's been on staff for about a year. Yeah, about a year. It's a 144-room hotel, I think. Harry makes about 30 deliveries a day. So he's doing room service. He's delivering amenities to rooms. I believe he even takes things up to the conference rooms. Harry's an autonomous robot. So what we mean by that is he lives at the front desk. Let's just say it's 10 o'clock. Somebody orders, they forgot their toothbrush. Staff member pops the toothbrush into one of Harry's 4 compartments, keys in the room number. He goes to the lift. He calls the lift. He tells the lift what floor he wants to go to. And then when he gets to the room, you've probably noticed he doesn't have any arms or hands, so he can't knock on the door. He rings the phone in the room to let the guest know that he's waiting outside. The second robot here, I think I'm pointing to it, is a vacuuming robot. It can vacuum carpet. It also has an attachment so that it can do hard floors as well. As I said before, these robots are great at consistency and will really do a thorough job. They're also now becoming autonomous, so they can travel in the lift. So it could be, at midday after checkout, robot jumps in the lift, goes up, does a couple of floors. When it senses battery's low, will come down, recharge itself, and then go and finish the job. This robot here is a robot called Connie. It's at the Hilton McLean. It's a concierge robot. So her job is to help guests with information about the local area, restaurants, and stuff like that. These are a couple of bartending robots. They are extremely accurate. The waste, their pouring is accurate, and there's no waste. The only limitation is they're not particularly good at conversation. The last robot here is a security robot. Haven't seen any in Australia. There are some hotels overseas that have them. People like Westfield operate them at shopping centres after hours. And Microsoft got one at their campus, and I believe a couple of police departments even have them in the US. These robots are They're fine to go outside. They literally patrol an area. They've got lots of cameras in them. And when they see something that is sort of out of the ordinary, they raise an alarm. As I said, we really don't have time, unfortunately, to talk about virtual reality or augmented reality, but I think both of those, we could spend a whole session. Both of those will play a part in the technology of the future in hotels. And the Blue Mountains Hotel School, as you probably read, are already using virtual reality to do scenario training with their students. So what is technology good for? Okay, it's great for staff development. It can help you use to train your team to make them more knowledgeable and capable of providing exceptional service. Talked about real-time information. So we've got a lot of information on guests to be able to provide a personalized experience, but getting access to that information has been difficult in the past, and I think that's where technology can really help. Reducing workload. So we've talked a lot about using technology to automate. If it can do that, it can actually streamline the work for your team, making them less stressed, giving them better job satisfaction, and hopefully less turnover. And finally, as I've said a number of times, technology should actually enable your team, allowing them to do what they do best, and that is create relationships with your guests, providing hospitality and true guest experiences. So that question we talked about before at the start is it a matter of high tech or high touch? I don't think it's a choice, but it's a balance. A balance where technology enhances rather than replaces humans. And I think in the evolving hospitality industry, success lies with those who can blend innovation with empathy to create truly memorable guest experiences. Here are my contact details. If we're not connected on LinkedIn, please feel free to do so. I post daily. I run a couple of series. There's the Technology Concierge series where I talk to suppliers about technology. And the aim there is to sort of demystify the technology as much as possible. The other series is called 5-Star Conversations, and that's where I talk to senior hoteliers. We have a bit of a chat about how they got into the industry, how their career developed, and we have a quick chat too about, what the industry may look like in 5-10 years time and what we as an industry can do to get ready for that. As we finish up, I want to leave you with a quote from Peter Drucker, and he says, the best way to predict the future is to create it. Thank you very much for your time today.